This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Wow, we just found some lions here. This is the Birmingham Pride, which they just moved from where they are. Welcome, everyone. And yeah, this morning we just found these lions here. They're just lying relaxed, but this is the Birmingham Pride, of which they've moved, I would say, about 2.5-3 kilometers where they were last seen last night. So we're gonna watch these lions and enjoy what they're doing. And then I'm not alone. So this morning we're gonna be taking to this African experience. I've got Steve and Juma, Lauren, and then Tswalo I've got Kyle, Pinda I've got Angus, and then Prideland JP. So we're gonna be taking you to this African bush experience. Wow, we've just found these lions here. This is the Birmingham Pride. Welcome to our viewers at home. My name is Dai Koza and Mpo behind the camera. We're gonna be taking you to this African bush experience, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this morning. As you look here, we found the Birmingham Pride, of which the animals have moved 2.5-3 kilometers from where they were last night. Yeah, I know it might be difficult with that little bush in front of us. As you can see, the white one is just grooming with the tawny one there. And then behind the lions, we've got this African sunset coming up. And this lions looks like they tried to hunt again last night, even though they looked well fed a little bit yesterday. But this shows how good their digestion system is, because they digested all the food that they had, and they tried to hunt again last night, but no success. So we're gonna sit here. As you can see, the sun is going a bit higher. So let's stay here and watch these lions, what they're gonna do. But I think they're definitely gonna start moving into the shady spot as soon as the sun starts getting hot. And they position themselves, which a little bit away, maybe another couple of meters. You can see this enough and dense vegetation, even though they're out in the open. Yeah, there is a chance that something might walk past here. Yeah, we're gonna sit and watch these lions and go over to Steve at Juma and see what the guys has found for us.
Good morning, everyone. And it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day here at And Beyond Pinda. On our way to try and look for those same two cheetah that we've been spending quite a lot of time with over the last couple of days, we came across these two white rhino. My name is Angus, and behind the camera this morning we have Odie, and we are going to be a little bit later trying to go look for those cheetah that we found last night. You can see these two rhino are just eating at the moment, eating the shorter grass on the side of the road. Wasn't very difficult to spot them, being such big animals and being so close to where we're about to drive. And you can see that they're white rhino. Notice how close to the ground they hold their heads. Typical behavior of them with their very wide mouths. In contrast, black rhino would usually eat from shrubs. So an easy way to tell the difference between the two from a long distance away would simply to just watch how they hold their head. If they hold their heads low like this, it's more likely a white rhino than a black rhino. One is a male and one is a female, but they look a similar size. Darcy, yes, a rhino roadblock. The best type of roadblock, really. Much better than a Joburg roadblock. And even though they're such big animals, you'll see that there's quite a lot of long grass alongside them. But it seems like they prefer the much shorter grass with the new green shoots coming through. And it's at this time of day when it's very early and quite cool that would be the best time for them to eat, because it's not so hot and moving around won't make them so uncomfortable. They are very big animals though, so they will have to eat quite often throughout the day. A beautiful scene and beautiful sounds this morning. So Odie and I are going to keep going and try and look for cheetah. For now, we'll send you over to Lauren to say hello to everyone.
I have a better scene. My scene is better than yours. We have Ntima here, who's just called her little one, put her head in the den, did that sort of low or something like that. And the little one comes out with pillow face, definitely been sleeping, and she's trying to signal, come over here. It's time to drink. It's time to suckle. Yay, it's not as active as I would like it to be, but it's active. My name is Lauren, and I do have Morgan on camera this morning. This is my favorite place to be, at the hyena den. The cub's there. Why are you being shy? We know that you're not shy. I cannot believe the difference in this little one. This is the youngest cub of all the cubs. We think it's a boy. But it's also worth noting that we could be wrong. We thought Ribbon was a boy for a very long time and she gave birth. So we do get it wrong with hyenas. And Tima's coming back to say, come on. Follow me. Cub's not coming. And Tima is just the most beautiful hyena. And I had such a wonderful day yesterday. I managed to see Hart, and then we caught up with Swazi and another individual that I didn't get the chance to identify. So Swazi is still around. And Tima, your cub is being very defiant and not coming with you for some reason. This may have been a brief sighting. It may end very shortly. Amy, you're saying yay, cubbies. Oh, I think yay, cub, and I don't know how long this is going to last for. If you think about it, it is quite late in the morning. And Tima's waiting. She's waiting on her little cub who's just not following. I think she's just going to wander off. Would you look at that? Extremely brief. Everybody's sleeping. Ah, Morgan, how sad. Are you sad, Morgan? Yes, he's sad. Okay, well, that is a den activity for this morning. I think we shall bumble and see what else we can find. It's chilly. Oh, winter's just hit us in the face already so hard. Oh, dear. I fear. Ah, she turned on. Come on, Wendy, you can do this. Wendy's being a little bit temperamental these days. Broke down in a total of 6 times yesterday during drive, so hopefully she will survive this one. Okay, we're going to bumble on, see what else we can find today, and we're going to send you across to Steve to say good morning.
Well, good morning and welcome to Djuma. Welcome to the vehicle named Rusty. Welcome to beautiful Elephant Bull here in the morning. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve, joined by David Sita on camera, and we're excited to be out and about with you. And we hope you're as excited as we are on this Wednesday morning. It is shopping day. Food arrives today, so we can supplement our smoothies. Okay, so we were up on the road, just uphill from here, and we heard some impalas shouting. So we've just moved into the area to see if we can figure out why they were shouting, because it is that time of year when ratting males will make a lot of noise, but it was definitely not a ratting impala. That was proper impala alarm call. So we are going to follow up in this area. Obviously, we came into the area and we found this magnificent elephant bull. He is rather magnificent, isn't he, Darby? Stunning. Feeding on a creeper of sorts that is pulling out of the bush. But this morning, everybody, we are going to be once again focusing on a few birds. Christopher, such beautiful tusks. Sterlings. That's a Nediki. Nediki calling off to the left. Such gorgeous tusks indeed. He's a handsome fellow as well. Trying to see. I can hear Koki Franklin as well calling. It's a little bit misty, so we do apologize. This is all live. And coming to you with a sun in the background of the elephant, and any mist on the screen can make it look a little bit hazy. Some nice dramatic effect. These elephant teeth look like really big molars. Don't have a picture. I don't think I have a picture. I might. Let me see if this wonderful book of mine does indeed have a picture. I think it might do. They're really big molars. 78. Oh, what's the matter, boy? You are so big. Look how big you are. You're so big. There we go. There's a broken elephant tooth over here. Now, that would have fallen off the front of the elephants. So there would be a line of them behind. The molars start, and then they erupt, and then they push out, and that will fall off like being shaved off with the file, for example. You have the molars, and they sort of stack with each other. The first one comes out when they're younger, and then the next one pushes out from the back like a conveyor belt. The next one, and eventually the one at the front falls off. It's how we can age elephants, by their teeth, by a couple of years. Let's move up. By a couple of years, because of the way that the teeth wear, they get 6 sets of molars in their life. And by the time they reach 40, 45, that last molar pushes through the back. And once that's worn down, then that is what actually causes the majority of elephants to lose condition and eventually die. The fact that they're not able to chew their food.
In preparation for our 14th birthday, we will be lighting up a fire and heading on a special journey down memory lane. Join Lauren and Steve on the 11th of April for a sentimental look through the archives.
The missing cubs have arrived!
Holy moly, everyone, this is incredible stuff.
Oh my goodness, everyone. Oh, there's 2.
Who better to have as special guests than the Wild Earth co-founders Emily and Graham Wallington. They'll be answering questions about Wild Earth's fascinating journey since its launch in 2007. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer and join us straight after the Sunset Drive on the 11th of April for what promises to be a remarkable evening.
Graham, I'm just going to see, there's a very good place I want to see if we can get good signal from there. That's where I'd like to go.
Welcome to Dawn in the African Bush.
How cool is this? Can you believe it?
Those cubs are now only 10 feet from us. Unbelievable.
Elephants chasing wild dogs chasing elephants. Pandemonium!
Watching how Wild Earth has grown since 2007 has been truly remarkable. On the 27th of April this year, Wild Earth will be turning 14, and we would love to hear from you. Please send us your own special birthday message, which we can share with the rest of the Wild Earth family. Maybe you can tell us why you started watching Wild Earth, what Wild Earth means to you, or you could just send us a very happy birthday. Don't forget, when you want to film yourself, to hold your phone sideways to get the best angle. When you are ready, you can email your videos through to birthday@wildearth.tv.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
Welcome on board on this lovely morning. Nice and chilly, a little bit of a wind, and the sun is about to peek over the Coronaburg Range. Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name's Kyle. Behind camera is BK, and we are traveling south this morning. And we are just going to scratch around here in the bushes. Hopefully we can unearth something exciting. But regardless of what it is always exciting, isn't it? It's a grass, it's an insect. And having open intentions is what I like going out with.
Hello, beautiful colours. Let me stop there for a few seconds so you folks can enjoy the rattling of this trusty old steed. Looking very, very beautiful. BK just busy balancing us there, leveling us out, and look at that. Yum, 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 yum. We had quite a lot of cloud cover this morning. I thought we were going to receive a little bit of rain, but that cloud cover's pulled further southeast. And the mornings are really starting to feel somewhat like winter. And when those temperatures do start to get to those very frigid regions, you'll find that all guides and trackers will have blankets around their knees while driving out here, because it is very cold, especially for a tracker in the front of the vehicle. You know, the wind hitting your knees can become very chilly. So wearing a nice little bush blanket, or bush skirt I like to call it, is it's very welcoming. Let's send you over to JP, who would like to say good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Waldorf Eco Training. We are live from Pridelands. My name is JP Leroux, and behind the camera we have Johan. Our plan for this morning was to follow up on a single lioness that was located last night, quite late, on a rocky outcrop, where she was busy feeding. So we went to go and investigate in the specific area and found that there was no trace of her. So we started our walk and discovered some of her tracks as they are going down the road. Here we can see the footprint that she has left behind. So quite often, once lions have fed and they have consumed a large amount of meat, they quite often will go straight towards water. So our focus for this morning is to see if we can locate on her. Just a few features in terms of tracking when it does come to finding animals. Some of these features I have discussed in previous editions. So when we do look at different animals, we ask ourselves, does it belong to a broader group, such as antelope, cats or dogs, or does it belong to something that walks on its whole foot? Here we can see that this is a little hind pad over here with 3 lobes, and then the digits. A foot structure which is specifically designed for silent walking, which comes in very handy when you need to stalk prey and be as quiet as possible that they cannot detect you. So a few of the other things that we also will notice with lions is that they don't show nails within the track, with the exception if they sometimes tread in mud or just before they stalk or just before that they're actually about to grab or prey. That's one of the few other times that I've ever noticed nail marks into the track. So very often these tracks are also confused with a hyena when it comes to lionesses. However, with the lobes at the back and the slanted axis of a hyena, you'll very quickly be able to separate these, as well as hyena will show nails into the track. So a few other things that we can also take in consideration when it does come to tracking is, firstly, we want to age the track. We want to determine if it's fresh and if it's worth our time and effort to follow up. In this case, yes, it is worth our time and effort because we can see that it's still shiny on the inside and it hasn't been disturbed. We also know that the track is over that of a vehicle which drove here last night. The second thing that we want to always get to know is the direction of the track. Also, what we want to determine is the light. So when we're tracking, we always want to get the track between ourselves and the light so that it makes it easier to track and trail the animal. So from here on, we're going to set off and go and see if we can go and find her. And in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Lauren.
We have a huge herd of buffalo. I wonder if it's the same herd that Darby and I also had the other night. There's so many youngsters. It's really sweet. There's a lot of very, very small calves. And what's fascinating is there's lots of lion activity around right now. We had lions walk past camp right now. The Talamatis are around. I think the Nkohumas are around on the western side. And yet, they don't seem to be following these buffalo. After we left the buffalo the other night, we came home and we bumped into the Talamatis. So we watched them for a little bit. And they head in the other direction. They didn't go in the same direction as the buffalo. But there's a lot of lion activity around right now. I wonder if they get annoyed with the oxpeckers after a while. We get both the red-billed and the yellow-billed. But this is the yellow-billed that we can see sitting on top of these buffalo. It's suckling. Can you see that, Morgan? This little one suckling. How sweet. Or it was. Yeah, there we go. And of course, buffalo calves make really easy targets for any of the predators. Once they're separated from the herd, they're very small. Sorry, go in one more time with that question. KG, I don't think anything. I personally wouldn't mistake a buffalo track out here. Obviously, they do look very similar to domestic cattle. But out here in the Lowveld, I don't think a buffalo track could be mistaken for anything else. Size, shape. And if you were confused, then the sort of number of tracks, they are everywhere. The whole road is just littered with a stampede of buffalo tracks. And of course, it's accompanied by their dung. So really, I mean, the clues are there. The dung is all along the road as well as the tracks. I don't think they could be mistaken for anything else out here, really. I think this is an oxpecker bus, this one. How many have we got? I think this individual's got about 8 or 9 oxpeckers on it. I wonder if we could go forward a bit more again. Yeah, let's go forward. There we go. Do you know you have a lot of oxpeckers on your back, sir? I mean, just the way that any bird would maintain balance. They're able to grip with their feet, sort of specialized toes that they're able to cling on to the hair on the buffalo. So they're literally just clinging on. And they're birds. They're very small, lightweight. It's easy for them. And of course, for an animal the size of a buffalo, I mean, an oxpecker or 2 on your back's not going to bother you. Whereas species like impala, they get very bothered. They really, really don't like it. You can see them constantly trying to get the oxpeckers off. Whereas the buffaloes, they don't really tend to bother too much unless it's in the ear or up the nose or somewhere else they shouldn't be. Ah, there we go. And you can actually also listen for alarm from oxpeckers. If there's a predator nearby, oxpeckers will alarm and they'll fly off from the buffalo. So you can also sort of listen to the oxpeckers and the sounds they're making to know if there's a threat nearby. They can also alarm the buffalo. So I guess there's a little bit of a mutual benefit in that aspect. Okay, we're going to sit with these buffalo just a little bit longer, and now we're going to send you across to another live location.
Yeah, if you look there, now these lawns are lying flat, most of them, because those baboons that we had earlier on, they have left also. And it's quite amazing how these animals blend in with the color of the soil and the grass. Like, if you look, you can only see the three in front where the young white male is sleeping, but there's few more other animals at the back that you cannot see. That shows how well they blend in. So if you looking there, you might think you're looking at three animals, but I see two more at the back, which the reason for that is just a little bit closer, and then that's where, there we go. So yeah, there must be more animals in the bush. As you look from the two that are lying on the shade, just on that little hill, there's a third one that's lying there. That shows how well these animals blend in. So this gives them a very good chance to hunt in the day. You can see there's a tail flicking there, chasing the flies away. Gives them better chance to hunt even during the day when they're really hungry. So they can still blend in with this African bush when they hunt and get something to eat during the day, even though these animals are known as night hunters. They'll still go out there and hunt in the day and get successful, but the chances will be very slim because they can easily be seen by the prey. And as it's getting hotter, these three that are lying in front, they might join the others by the shade. So we're going to stick around here for a few more minutes and see if they get up and move, or one of those baboons is still around. Might hear the baboon alarming. That might got the lion's attention to sit up so we can have a better view of them again. Yeah, let's stay here for the next couple of minutes and see what these animals are going to do. Yeah, Peter, it just depends, because these lionesses have to look after their cubs until 2.5, 3 years. That's when they can hunt properly for themselves. If you look at the white one that's lying in front, he's just over 2 years now. So soon these lions are gonna have cubs. I don't know if you were with us the last 2 days, because we saw one of the lionesses from this pride, which is got now already 2 cubs. So they'll look after these cubs until 2.5, 3 years. That's when they can mate again, unless a new male comes into the area and kill those cubs, and then she'll come onto oestrus and mate again. Because that's what will happen when a new male comes. You'll kill those cubs just to make the females to come on to heat or oestrus, as soon as possible, and then they can mate and have their own cubs. He'll kill the cubs that are not his own cubs. The other male's cubs will be killed by a new male that's taken over the pride, and then he can mate and have his own cubs. I don't think these animals are going to be doing much for now. I'm just going to give it another 5 more minutes. But that's not one of the best places for them to be. Sooner or later, if you look on the background, there's this beautiful marula tree. I'm going to get onto that now. There we go. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that tree. That's one largest tree from here that I think they might go lie under. That's why when the lions are lying on the ground, even if they leave the area, when we come back this afternoon to try, we're just going to sit here with these lions and see if they move. And then while we're here, we're going to go over to Kyle and see what Kyle can surprise us with.
In the meantime I'll show you guys a very beautiful scene. We've stumbled upon this beautiful open area, and you can see these are habitats or areas which springbuck do prefer. They're more of an arid species of antelope, so having areas of great visibility is very important for springbuck. And that's how they stay alive out here. If you have good view or visibility, that means that you can pick up on a predator fairly easy, because there's not a lot of cover or not a lot of sneaky spots for a predator to hide away. And like we've spoken about, they need to get fairly close, within 40 to 60 meters, to have a successful attempt. And these antelope are lightning quick, so if they pick up on a predator, having the head start is a very important thing by not being caught. And they are super lightning quick, these antelope. Springbuck have been clocked up to about 88 odd kilometers, and that's very fast. Think about a cheetah, which is about 80 to 100 odd kilometers. So, and they are very agile at that as well. So this is a little group of females. You can see from the horn structure, they are also like the oryx or the gemsbok. They are open plains game animals, or open areas, and so you need your weapons with you. You need your tools with you, and so both male and female will be set with horns. And just looking at the horn structure, they are very thin and very dainty, especially around where the horn meets the top part of the head, at the basal section, very thin. So that's a very clear indication that this is a little group of females. You can have groups of 10 up to 50, and obviously you would have larger groups in or during the summer periods than you would in the winter. And within these groups, you would have a dominant ram or two, and the rams are territorial through the breeding season. And these ladies are there's one far on our western side, and I think that might be the ram that is dominating this little area. But it's a very beautiful scene. It looks like they're waiting for the sun. Danny, they would use those horns to defend their young. So in the very, very early periods after birth, the young will actually hide in thickish grass or in a bit of cover while the mother goes off and feeds. And she'll come back at different intervals to nurse and then clean this little one. But if there had to be a jackal nearby, or maybe a small cat, that female will put those horns almost horizontal with the ground and actually drive forward, obviously using her power and her weight to almost pierce and use those horns as very, very volatile weapons. And they can be quite, how can I say, they can be quite vicious around a predator. I've seen springbok defend young from smaller carnivores. And very efficient. You've got to play a bluff card out here. You've got to show that predator that you are more vicious and more... that one in the middle sees something. They just gave an alarm call. And you can see how everybody on the left there just kind of responded. So that larger female in the middle, she definitely saw something. Well, these beautiful ladies aren't going very far, but let's send you over to somebody who is moving and grooving in the bush.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment, we're still on the track of our lioness. However, we've become a little bit distracted when we heard distant breaking of branches and decided to follow up on the elephants in the meanwhile. So we located on a small group of elephants, which seems to be a number of young bulls that are busy feeding. If you look in the distance, approximately some 20-30 meters, you'll be able to notice them feeding between the branches. So yesterday we were asked about what precautions do we take when we follow and track wild animals, such as lion. The principles is precisely the same for almost all wild animals. So firstly, we made sure that this morning that the wind was in our favor before we started approaching. Elephants have got an amazingly good sense of smell and also hearing, so therefore we don't want them to hear us or to detect us by smell. The second thing that we made sure was that we've got an escape route for ourselves as well as for the animals. And currently we're standing on quite a tall termite mound, which is probably 2 to 3 meters high, which we can use for our safe area should the animals decide to change direction or the wind maybe change direction and they detect us. For me, following elephants and being with elephants on foot is probably one of the most humbling experiences. Good morning, Jackson, and welcome to the show. And to answer your question, it's always an amazing and humbling experience to find elephants on foot. As humans, we're fairly small. Myself, I weigh approximately 75 kilograms compared to an animal that has a potential of weighing in between 6,000 and 10,000 kilograms. For me, it's always about respect and showing them, allowing them to have the opportunity to move freely without detecting us. What also amazes me always when we are following elephants, how quiet they can be. And if we look at the structure of a foot, they're specially designed to allow for walking very quietly, as they've got a large amount of cartilage underneath the foot. What we also find is that we normally detect them by their feeding sounds that they produce, where they're breaking branches and twigs as they are continuing to feed. As you probably already know, elephants do need to eat a lot, and as mentioned, they can take up to 300 kilograms of food in a day. So therefore, they have to constantly be eating, as their food quality is fairly low and their digestive system very poor. And meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Pinda.
What a peaceful scene here at Pinda. I love just taking in all the sounds that we get out in the bush, especially in the early morning. It's probably my favorite time to be out on a game drive. It's still very cool and the birds are very active, so there's a lot of sound coming from them. And there are quite a lot of hippos in this watering hole, as you can see on your screen. And it's not just that pod that's in screen, there's a few more outside, further away from the main pod. But I really love the sounds they make as they surface, blowing air out of their lungs. You can see all the ripples of water moving away from those hippos. There's basically no wind this morning, so that's the only movement that we're getting on the surface of the water this morning. Some of you may have noticed this is the same watering hole where we were watching that hammerkorp hunting yesterday. That was really special. 2 white-faced whistling ducks. Some of the more common visitors to our watering holes here at Phinda. Giving us a beautiful flyby right past the vehicle. See a couple of the young hippos who are just playing with each other. And I've actually just picked up something happening behind me. There are some monkeys making alarm calls. And they keep going. Don't know if you can hear it. Those monkeys are really going crazy off behind me. I'm quite keen to go have a look soon. Taylor, I don't think hippos eat many aquatic plants. They usually venture quite far out of watering holes overnight, which would give the indication that they eat non-aquatic plants. They've been known to travel up to between 7 and 10 kilometers in a night, although that's not usual. It just has been recorded before. They usually travel about 3 kilometers in order to find good grazing. It does depend on the rains. So, Taylor, I think predominantly, no, they would eat non-aquatic plants. Okay, I think let's try and start. We're going to go and investigate those monkey alarm calls. And for now, I'll send you off to another live location.
Nestled on the banks of one of the largest lakes in the Sabi Sands lies an award-winning game lodge called Chitwa Chitwa. Many of you will have been on safari here virtually with Wild Earth, but now we are offering you the chance to see it for yourself in person. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer before the end of April, and you and a friend could win 3 nights to this luxury lodge. In addition to the unforgettable safaris, you can unwind on the deck, relax in the pool, and even savor the various bush dining experiences. Chitwa's holistic approach to hospitality, with specific emphasis on conservation, will leave you with the very best memories of the African wild. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
Hello everybody, welcome back to this younger buffalo here. Where's the rest of your herd, young female buffalo? Sorry about the position everybody, she moved just as we wanted to go live and now she's hiding behind a bush. Very wet, glistening nose. It's uncommon to find a female on her own. Go behind the car, of course, and that's going to prevent us from filming here. It's very rude. Very rude, young lady. Well, we followed up on those alarm calls that we heard, and we found some very fresh leopard tracks heading north. So we're just doing a little bit of a loop. A little bit of a loop. See if maybe we can figure out where they are headed to. Let's do a little bit of a maybe get her bottom as she leaves. There we go. She's got a fork-tailed drongo as well as oxpeckers on her. So birding, everybody. The oxpecker are looking for ticks and any flies that might be accompanied, and the fork-tailed drongo is looking for any insects that get displaced. So 2 different types of symbiotic relationship. One being a mutualism between the oxpecker and the buffalo, and the removal of the parasite, which is another symbiotic relationship between the tick and the buffalo, parasitism, and then commensalism between the fork-tailed drongo and the buffalo, whereby the fork-tailed drongo is getting food and the buffalo is not being affected in any way. So 3 ecological relationships right there. Very cool. Okay, well, she's going off west, and we shall do a little meander around the block. just saw there? Or was it a log? Seeing lots of logs at the moment that resemble animals. Goodness me. That log looks like a kudu. Look at him, Darby. You see it? Right there. Boom. An antelope log. Okay, well, we are going to make up antelope as we go along, but Carl, well, he's already got some.
Well, we're still enjoying this beautiful scene. And what we're doing, myself and BK, we're just sitting still. And we are giving a scan every couple of seconds through these vast open areas. Because it is, once you sit still, that something special does just pop up. And just to touch on that previous question that was asked, is how would a springbok defend its young? Is that animal will obviously put those horns down and just giraffe forward. And very, very, very efficient weapons those horns are. And I've seen, like I said, springbok defend their young from jackal and smaller cats, and they are not shy. They'll definitely show the angry side. Through that young period, the young also have underdeveloped scent glands. Yo! It's a bit of wind. I don't see anything out there. There's a bit of wind, so wind is a big disturbance or a big factor for animals. Think about now, your visual aspect is being disrupted. You know, you're getting strong gusts from certain directions, but also it's at a constant, so it can also trick you, can also disrupt your sense of smell. So antelope are fairly skittish when you have these gusty days. But you can see how quick they responded. When one moved, they were all, as a group, as one unit, out of there. The crowned lapwing busy calling in the distance. I think they got spooked because just before we came on board with you folks, we had two wildebeest chasing each other, and they, I think they just made them a little bit skittish. And just being on your toes like that is very important, how you're going to stay alive out here. Well, BK, should we move on a bit? Let's see what we can find a little bit further south of here. We're sitting here for a little while, and hopefully we can pick up on something just laying over here, because that's what an African wildcat would be doing now. It's laying just on the side of bushes over here, like this over here. Crowned lapwings crossing us. And we've decided that we're going to take it very slow this morning, just like yesterday. Let's send you over to the other side, to Lauren.
Some elephants. Looks like a small herd. We're in the south of the property. We've heard that Tandy and Maribes are on Little Gowrie. It's actually quite surprising. I really don't understand why Tandy's not spending more time on Djuma. She seems to be completely omitting Djuma and spending time on all the surrounding properties, which is obviously sad for us. I miss her dearly, but she's very close to the southern boundary. So you never know. Sometimes she may get mobile and come our way, so I'll keep my ear on the radio. I'd love to catch up with Tandy and Cup, but she was on Torchwood just 2 days ago and she's now on Little Gowrie. And she seems to just be doing the perimeter of Djuma and not actually stepping her little paws inside. But these are some extremely happy elephants. Nikanova, you're asking about a serious fight between two elephants? It's hard to determine serious, I guess, but I think the most that you witness out here is definitely tussling between boys. It can get very boisterous, and of course with the sheer body weight behind two males, it definitely appears a lot more aggressive to us meager humans. I think I have seen a serious fight or two, but it definitely didn't result in extensive injuries or any fatalities. But some of these bigger bulls can, of course, step in and also be aggressive. But what you find as a elephant bull normally starts to calm down after about 40 years. And this is general, give or take. It will depend a lot on genetics and external factors and environmental factors. I can't see the elephant, I can just see the trees going from side to side. But yes, it will depend a lot on various different factors, but generally speaking, after about 40 years, the males calm down. They tend to learn how to handle must, how to handle the changes. Oh, this one's tuskless. You see that? I don't know if there's a tusk on the left side. Oh, wow. You do get tuskless individuals. I wonder if she can turn around and we can maybe see if there's a tusk on the other side. But yes, that's why we call them gentlemen, because they're big, but they're just a lot calmer. Yes, you've got to be careful of a musk bull, but they seem to just be able to handle it a little bit better. The aches, the pains, the hormonal changes, the aggression levels, once they get above 40. It's normally the younger bulls who are sort of high on testosterone. They've got the throbbing pain in their temporal gland. They're just feeling really boisterous. They're the ones that you have to worry about. Fairly common. Tuskless individuals. They say that sort of when you see a female that doesn't have any tusks, I'm trying to wait to see if she has a tusk on her left side, but when you see a female that's tuskless, it's normally due to genetics. Females are nowhere near as aggressive towards one another, they can be towards humans, than males. Males are far more aggressive, and females just generally are said to use their tusks a little bit less. Tusks are, of course, modified incisor teeth, so they can naturally break and snap off. And when males don't have any tusks, they say that this is due to injury and fighting. But for females, it's normally sort of a recessive genetic characteristic. So tusks can continue to grow throughout their entire lifetime, but they will not regrow. So once they're broken or snapped or severely damaged, they will not regrow, but they will continue to grow throughout that elephant's lifetime if they're not damaged. So tuskless elephants are fairly common. But she's not turning around. I don't think she has any tusks. I can't see any sort of protrusion. A lot of it's genetic, the size, the shape, the length that the tusk will grow to. You get the big tuskers sort of away up in Kenya and the Masai Mara and the Serengeti, and that's genetic. Those elephant bulls that have these huge, mammoth, literally, tusks. Some interesting sounds. Okay, I'm going to sit here just a moment or two longer and see if we can actually find out if she has another tusk. But for now, we're going to send you across to JP on Bushwalk.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We've continued our walk. We're still on the tracks of our lioness, and we've been weaving in and out between a number of different herds of elephants as we were continuing our tracking session. In the meanwhile, we located on very fresh dung of an African buffalo. And this looks like a typical cow pat, which you would expect from a typical cow in a farmyard. However, two animals are very different in behavior, with African buffalo being one of the most dangerous animals and one of the animals I'm most cautious of when I'm working on foot. So one of the ways that we can determine if this is a fresh cow pat is quite often just by simply pushing our finger into it and feeling the temperature. The core of this is still warm, which means that the animal is potentially in the area and that we should be on alert and of its presence. For me, African buffalo is quite a fascinating animal. And quite often when we do find them in large herds, they tend to be more relaxed. However, the young bulls and bulls that have been isolated from the main group are the ones that can potentially be dangerous, especially the elder bulls that has been pushed out of a herd and has no safety in numbers as with the typical herd numbers would have. If we look at the consistency of this is grass, and buffalo are basically bulk grazers. They feed on a large amount of coarse, unpalatable grasses. We also find that they're important in opening up areas quite often for other grazers to come and feed in. So when it comes to the dung of a buffalo, it's typically fine-grained. However, in this case, it's got a lot of moisture in it, why it's appearing quite sloppy compared to that of a normal antelope dropping. Both antelopes and buffalo are all ruminants, so they've got a complex four-chambered stomach, which assists for gaining the maximum amount of nutrition through the digestion process. Also behind us, we can hear oxpeckers in the distance. I'm sure everybody is familiar with them. And that is also a potential indication that that buffalo might still be in the area. To come back in terms of which dung beetles are going to use this, there's a number of different dung beetles that might utilize it. Those that roll, which will create little balls, and then roll the dung away to their tunnels. Those that will actually lay the eggs directly into the dung. And then also these that will make little balls and then pull that underneath the dung pad into the ground. And then fourthly, as you probably have known and learned over the different shows, is that they also can steal. So some species are actually well adapted to stealing the dung balls from other individuals and then utilizing that for themselves. So from here, what we'll be doing is we're going to continue on our track of a lioness and see if we can locate her. But in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Steve.
Welcome back. Welcome to a nice quiet moment at the watering hole, a perfect opportunity to reflect on the day, reflect on one's purpose, and to also indulge in a warm beverage. Lovely reflections indeed, Ruth. You can hear a black-crowned jaguar. Also the chirping of a fork-tailed drongo. There's the chirping sound of a cardinal woodpecker. Spot Battus. Okay, we are going to enjoy this scene for a moment longer. I'll always send you over to Lauren, who's enjoying some elephant magic.
We are very much enjoying the elephants, although I realise we've probably not got the best views. Sorry, Morgan. I've got a good view. Maybe, what do you think about reversing? Wendy hasn't broken down, everyone, so it's been a very good day. I hope I've not just a little bit more. Okay, Morgan's directing me here. There we go. They're all congregating around this one piece of shrubbery. It must be very delicious in there. I can't see exactly what vegetation it is they're eating, but something must be extremely yummy. And we've still not been able to identify if that female has another tusk. But it's normally genetic, so you will find within a herd of related females, it's a recessive gene. So the sort of tuskless genes will pass through, and you can normally find in some areas, or at least some herds, all the females will be tuskless for that reason. We've had 2 out of the big 5 this morning, buffalo and elephant. Now we just need to find lion and leopard. Doable, I think. Morgan agrees. It's doable. Lucia, you're saying it's an elephant picnic day. Always. Every day's a picnic day if you're an elephant. There's food all around. Grass, shrubbery, branches, bark, delicious cambium layers, marula trees just waiting to be debarked, cluster leaf just waiting to be pushed over. Every day's a picnic day. Okay, we may bumble on because we've got lions and leopards to find today, and we're going to send you across to Ngala with a surprise.
Wow. To some of our viewers at home, that you're seeing what I'm seeing, you might know or have a clue why I said wow, because I'm speechless. Why I don't or can't remember when last I saw wild dogs. As you look here, we find this pack of wild dogs that's lying on the road, of which it happens sometimes we see a pack of around 16 animals here, but I can only count maybe 4 or 5. As you can see, the one keeps looking and trying to listen with those big ears. The reason for that is because maybe some member of the pack are gone out hunting. These animals are very social. If they get successful, they'll call each other and then go over wherever the others have caught something, and then they'll join and feed, unlike the lions that work together as a team, but once the kill has been made, it's every lion for itself. But these animals will share the food. That's why even when the alpha female, that will be the leader of the pack, when she have pups, they'll go hunt as a team, eat and come back home and regurgitate the food for the young ones and feed the young ones back in the den until they 3 to 4 months. That's when they start moving along with the adults. It's a pity they're not lying out in the open. They might be all here, excuse me, in this long grass. Otherwise, if they were lying out in the open, I'll be able to see and tell which are the 2 leaders of the pack, because it will be the alpha male and the alpha female and the beta male, I mean to say. And then the female will lead the pack at all time until she's got the pups in the den. For the last few weeks, she'll stay back in the den and rely on the rest of the pack to eat and come back and feed her. But once the pups start eating meat, and then she'll join the pack and hunt with them. By the time she's back in the den, then the beta male will take the lead. He will lead the pack. There's another one getting up from under the tree. Like I said, they might be all around here. It's just because the grass is a bit higher and then it's getting warm, so the animals might be lying in the long grass. Yeah. So he takes the lead until she comes back and join the pack, and then she'll take over from him. And then, very interesting, because they have a huge competition between themselves and the hyenas. They compete for food. Otherwise, yeah, when they go off on a hunt, they'll be trailed by a number of hyenas and try to take whatever they feeding there. We're just gonna sit around here and see if these animals move. That will be really nice to us to see them get up and walk, so we can see them a little bit better.
In preparation for our 14th birthday, we will be lighting up a fire and heading on a special journey down memory lane. Join Lauren and Steve on the 11th of April for a sentimental look through the archives.
The missing cubs have arrived! Holy moly, everyone, this is incredible stuff.
Oh my goodness, everyone. Oh, there's 2.
Who better to have as special guests than the Wild Earth co-founders Emily and Graham Wallington. They'll be answering questions about Wild Earth's fascinating journey since its launch in 2007. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer and join us straight after the Sunset Drive on the 11th of April for what promises to be a remarkable evening. For many years, Wild Earth has taken viewers from around the world to the Mara Triangle, a place of majestic beauty and abundant wildlife. But it wasn't always like this. Before 2001, it was infested with poachers. Illegal harvesting and hunting was rife. Now the situation couldn't be more different. The hard work and dedication of the Mara Conservancy has revolutionized this magical land. But now, the loss of revenue from tourism has created a grave crisis. The Mara Conservancy needs help if they are to continue protecting the reserve and supporting the local communities whose livelihood depend on its survival.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Welcome back, everybody. And the garden service has once again moved in and around Djuma. They must have come in last night. I had their trucks heading out last night and they came back in again. So doing little loops in and out towards the water and mowing the lawn as they go, dropping their tick loads, depositing their dung and hiding behind the bushes. Now that female we saw earlier, I think was a bit lost because she was going in the wrong direction. She was probably trying to smell where the herd had gone, and obviously she'd smelt where the herd had come from. So who knows what got her disorientated. But she's definitely gone the wrong direction. Okay, well that's all right. We'll carry on. Move up a bit. We got some more buffalo in front of us. They're all sort of moving through the block here. There are some in front. They were at Treehouse Dam a few hours ago. All moving through the seep line here. Rochelle and Buffalo will have one calf, and they'll look after that calf themselves. There'll be no sharing. And we have a bird once again on the back, hiding behind the ear. This is one of the older bulls. Fine specimen. You'll probably hear all of the ox pickers. They move up. They seem to keep moving away from us. Lovely herd. Big herd. Oh, look at that fellow. Okay, we're going to spend some more time with our buffalo. We're going to send you back over to Pridelands and the Bushwalk team.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're still on track of following our lioness for the morning, and we've just located on a little nest that we found inside a buffalo fawn. So the little nest that we have over here belongs to a bird that's known as a blue waxbill. I'm just going to quickly show you a picture of how it looks like. And there we go. This is our little blue waxbill. So typically, blue underparts, brown uppers, and this little seed eater that we find often will place its nest deliberately into fawn trees, where the fawns will protect it and the nest against potential mammal predators that might want to harass it. At times, they also take it a step further, and they will deliberately build the nest close by towards where wasps are nesting, to employ these wasps then as an extra security detail to protect the nest and the young while they're out. So the blue little waxbills, they tend to use 3 different species of grass, which is their favorite species to make their nest from, of which one of them is known as a blue seed grass, which is a more typical grass that they will be using. So with the species, they often will employ monogamy, where we'll find that the pair will mate for a consecutive amount of years. In some species, we also find that some of the birds that employ monogamy might do so for a few years or for a single season, and then occasionally in some species also for lifelong. We quite often find a number of different strategies of nests, which birds will have, of which the cup-shaped nest is quite the most common, or saucer-shaped. However, this woven ball of nest is for me one of the most intricate of most of the nest. And then you also have some more complex nest structures, such as that of the weavers, and especially those that we find in the Kalahari, which Carl is busy looking at the moment, which is belonging to the sociable weavers. So if you also look a little bit closer, the tree that we're looking at is known as buffalo fawn, and it gets its name from the fact that the buffalo often rears its backside in a Good morning, Lily Pan, and welcome to the show. With regards to that question, I haven't observed any of birds using a nest over here, other than the blue waxbill. However, there is a number of finch species, what we have, which don't make their own nest. And quite often they will also go and hide inside those nests and use them for insulation. Some species of birds that also produce their own nest, they will also use that nest to insulate themselves. And that's quite a typical behavior in the colder and western parts of South Africa, where the temperatures can drop quite low in the winter months. Some of those species are like the sociable weaver that we just mentioned from the Kalahari, and then also sometimes we'll find that species like cut-throat finch will also go and use the nest of other weaver species. I've noticed this in the area that they quite often will go into the nest of red-headed weavers and use those when the red-headed weaver has abandoned nesting. We're going to continue on our walk and see what we can go and find and see if we can chase down our lioness for the morning. But in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Carl that's busy tracking some birds.
Well, while he looks for those beautiful and very wonderful cats, we have got something very special here. And this must be my 5th sighting, maybe. Yeah, around about my 5th sighting on Tshwane since I've been here. There is a pair of secretary birds, and we can see they are secretary birds due to its walking behavior. They spend a lot of time on the terrestrial basis in search of various prey items. So walking in that manner is very distinctive. You can see the pattern And the bird's movements, very, very distinctive. Obviously, it would be separated from something like a crane, which would be something similar sized. And then as well as that beautiful, beautiful color scheme that it has got. Beautiful greyish body, and then the back end of the wings and then legs are black. Long tail, and then very, very long legs. And there is a pair here. They are quite far. We spotted them on the eastern facing slope, and when we saw them, we sat for a couple of seconds and they took off. And these birds are wandering through these grassy plains in search of any available prey. Secretary bird, obviously they do focus now and then on snakes, but it actually makes a portion of their diet. But they would go after insects, amphibians, reptiles, birds, their eggs, small mammals, you name it, anything that moves, basically. And then how they would kill their prey is in a very unique manner. So if you take a look at those long legs would give a very strong and deadly blow. So basically like stomping on their prey. With hard downward blows, yeah. And then once the prey item is stunned, they would basically pick it up and then swallow it whole. I've seen him take large rodents whole. But really remarkable and unique way of obtaining one's prey by stomping on it. So the bird would use one leg and almost give these very quick blows to stun and kill the prey. But wondering like this over years what this bird would be doing, and as soon as something is flushed, it would run after it and try and give it one or two quick punches with those feet. Oh, yeah, punches, I would say a punch and a kick. But very unique manner in which this bird finds its prey. So this is a pair. Male and female are alike, the sexes are alike, but male will be slightly larger in terms of body size. And then the crest would also be longer along with the tail. There's the partner on the left. Remarkable. What a beautiful view, and how lucky we are to see this incredible bird. Kelly, I've seen them predominantly in pairs. They can be split from one another, so sometimes you can find one by itself. But I have predominantly seen them in pairs. And they do form a monogamous pair bond, so basically male and female mating up, and if they are a mated pair, they create a stick platform usually placed on top of a thorn tree, so making Twal a perfect breeding habitat for these birds. And if you look at a pair, they can have a fairly large territory. The territory can be over 1,000+ hectares, which is quite a large area. Oh, sure, the giraffe just come wandering in there. They can be residents, but nomadic in the arid western regions, from my knowledge. Well, while these birds move off into the distance, we're going to be losing view of them shortly. Let's send you over to a buffalo.
Well, thank you. Not just one buffalo, a herd of buffaloes. There's a whole number of them here. Big bulls, young females, old females. We're right in the front of the herd now. And if it's the same herd as the other night, there are more than 100. Just gathered through the landscape here, through the long grass, feeding. Been anticipating the arrival of the buffalo into Djuma, and they have come a couple of times, but very necessary for them to open up the vegetation. And it's very interested in what we are trying to smell. They're very reliant on their nasal passages for detecting danger. They can see something that they don't quite like, but until they smell it, They don't normally respond until they get the smell. So quite often it can feel quite daunting. An entire herd can come running towards you with their nose in the air like that, looking at you. You might think we're about to end our lives right now, and then as soon as they smell you, the whole herd just picks up and turns the other direction and bolts. Quite a magical feeling, actually. Quite lovely to be ensconced by this herd. I do, Lisa. I do. They always give you that 1,000-yard stare. Well, Jamie, they come in here normally in the winter for the grazing, but they move throughout. They move wherever they want to in the Kruger. There's no set sort of spot. Got enormous home ranges that they just nomadically move through, and they move in response to the grazing. So once they've fed in this area, they'll move slightly over and then slightly over, and then following water trails will feed on the other side of that water and then move in the opposite direction, constantly moving into areas of good, productive grazing. And obviously these animals are susceptible to droughts and susceptible to years when there's not that much food. And that actually impacts their numbers quite strongly. But there's plenty of food this year. Buffalo are going to be around all over the place, wherever they move in the Kruger. We've got a photo bomber on the right there, Darby. Hello. They're going to be moving wherever they want to at the moment. And the thing is after a couple of weeks of grazing on this spot, this area is actually going to recover slightly. They could come back. So that sort of movement and that sort of natural sort of flower-like movement through the landscape facilitates the grass, facilitates the grazing, opens it up, nutrifies the soil, and actually makes for a second turn. Obviously, once all the grass is gone, grazers do struggle. The buffaloes are very water dependent and will always be found near and around water. There's a big fellow.
Move up a bit.
Yep, let's move up slightly, get you another view. Runs off to the right. How's that, all right? Quite dense vegetation, everybody, that the herd is in. It's not providing you with the best views, but it's nice to just be in amongst them. Listening, smelling. Okay, well, I've no doubt these buffalo are on their way eventually to some water at some stage today, but it looks like JP has already found some.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're still trailing on our lioness and just managed to locate where she was drinking, as our suspicions was that she would come straight towards water. That's just been confirmed by the tracks that we have found. Over here, very faintly, we can see the hind feet somewhere over here, and where the front feet is marked in the front of us, where she was busy drinking. So as mentioned earlier, they do need quite a large amount of water once they've consumed a large amount of protein to assist with the digestion process. While we're also looking at the number of tracks over here, there's a number of other animals that also have come and drink. It's ranging from a number of bird species to species such as impala that's also come to have a drink. And then right over here, much larger tracks of an elephant that we can see over here in the front. This is over here appears to be more like a front foot over here, and then maybe a hind foot over here, where the front feet tends to be much more rounded, and the hind feet generally tends to be slightly more oblong in its appearance and shape. One of the things that I do find quite fascinating with elephant feet is that when they lift the foot and it's inside mud, that the foot surface area becomes smaller, so that it becomes actually easier to be able to pull the foot out of a muddy substrate. And then it will enlarge as it's walking on the mud to prevent that it can easily sink in. So as most of you know, elephants love mud. They will basically come to water holes. They'll throw water on themselves to cool themselves. They'll throw mud on themselves to cool themselves. And then after that, go and wallow and rub themselves against a tree to get rid of all the parasites that's on their coats. We're going to continue from here. We're going to continue walking around the dam. We're going to see if we can find where this lioness has gone. Good morning, Hannah, and welcome to the show. There's a number of things that can determine how long the track will remain on the ground. And quite often that is wind. It's one of the main determining factors. And when we do have strong wind, that track can very rapidly age. Quite often you will notice that tracks with no wind takes a considerable amount of time to age. And compared to areas where I've tracked in the past, such as in Kalahari at Swalu, I also find that tracks can very, very rapidly age within minutes if there's a strong wind and a lot of loose sand. It also depends on the moisture content within the soil, how long it's going to take. And then we also find that quite often that species such as baboon and guinea fowl can quite often wipe out your tracks of an animal that has walked over an area, making it very hard to trail or find that track again. And heat obviously also has a role in how quickly a track can age. So one of the things that you can do, Hannah, if you would like to age a track, is very simply take your feet, your shoe, and make a marking in the soil. Then you can make another marking an hour later and compare how that track is aged. And then you also write down the different qualities of the different changes that you note and how the track will age. Generally with a fresh track, the track's edge will be sharp and crisp, and as it progressively becomes older, it will start deteriorating and crumble at the edges. My advice to you also would be then to take into account for wind, the temperature, and the moisture content in the air to see how those factors will also influence the aging of a track. We've just got a few noises coming from the back of us over here. I'm just going to quickly pan out from the camera and just see what is coming towards us. As we are at the water hole, quite often it's an area where larger animals will come and drink.
On the 27th of April, Wild Earth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what Wild Earth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy.
And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
Graham, I'm just going to see there's a very good place that I want to see if we can get good signal from there. That's where I'd like to.
Welcome to dawn in the African bush.
How cool is this? Can you believe it?
Those cubs are now only 10 feet from us. Unbelievable.
Elephants chasing wild dogs chasing elephants. Pandemonium!
Watching how Wild Earth has grown since 2007 has been truly remarkable. On the 27th of April this year, Wild Earth will be turning 14, and we would love to hear from you. Please send us your own special birthday message, which we can share with the rest of the Wild Earth family. Maybe you can tell us why you started watching Wild Earth, what Wild Earth means to you, or you could just send us a very happy birthday. Don't forget, when you want to film yourself, to hold your phone sideways to get the best angle. When you are ready, you can email your videos through to birthday@wildearth.tv.
I love being a cam op for Wild Earth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Well, BK and myself are scanning this dune street with intent. The giraffe has crossed over the next dune with the secretary birds. And we are just taking our time on top of the dune crest, and we are looking in and amongst all these bushes for anything that might be resting or moving in this vast landscape. You can see how much available cover there is. So that's why you really got to take your time to observe things out here, because something could be laying just in that grass, and by a quick, sudden glance you would miss it. But then taking your time and really looking, that's when you find things. Lovely cover and then lots of grass. So BK taking you through a scanning procedure. It's normally how we scan these dunes. So you want to have a system that you utilize to ensure that you cover all aspects and all points. So you can see how he's doing almost like a grid system, going up to the dune crest and slightly across to make sure there's nothing on top, and then back down to scan in amongst all these bushes within the dune street itself. Beautiful eland's bean. Lovely. Peter, it will dry out. All this beautiful grass will dry out. So once it is dry, it does become a little more brittle. And so if you look, when animals move through here, they will break a lot of it down. There still will be a lot through the drier winter period that we are now fast approaching. So actually, from animals' activity, will open up a little bit of the landscape, and you would find towards the start of spring, you'll have a little more red exposed earth dotted throughout the landscape. Right now, there's still a lot of it around. It's still going into a period where it'll start becoming dormant. But very beautiful now to see the change, especially when we come into the end of winter. You'll see that if we come and sit on this exact same spot, that there'll be a lot more exposed red earth. That iron oxided coated sand would be exposed a lot more. Well, BK, you've done a phenomenal job there. Nothing. Okay. So we are going to continue into that vastness, but On that note, let's send you over to somebody who's got something with feathers.
Morgan's been doing a fantastic job. This pied kingfisher is hunting and hovering. It's unbelievable. Oh, it's dived in. Did it catch anything? No, I don't think it was lucky. I just love how they hover. Kingfishers are generally not known for the hovering technique. It's mostly the pied kingfisher, the black and white one, that does such an incredible job at hovering. And it hovers in a unique way. I'm trying to keep my eyes on it. This is not an easy task for Morgan, but you're doing a great job. Oh, of course, now it's gone to the back of the vehicle. Come on, Mr. Kingfisher. It's gone over here, Morgan. Do you see it? It's hovering again. It's hovering. That means it's going to make a... Must be hungry. So he's looking for food in the water, and that's when the pied kingfisher hover. Now, it's achieved by using a sort of what they call a figure of 8 wing stroke. If you imagine taking your index finger and just drawing the figure of 8 continuously, that's what they're doing with their wings. So effectively, they're reversing the wing beat on the upstroke. Reverse, 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 just like a figure of 8. And it's a very, very costly form of flight. It's a good form of flight. It means they can catch food, but it's costly. It's going to really eat into their energy budget. And that's why they can't sustain it for very long. I've lost the kingfisher now. Do you know where it is, Morgan? Somewhere over there. We're actually looking for the malachite. I think Steve had the malachite the other day, and believe it or not, I've never seen a malachite kingfisher. It is not on my bird list. And I'm desperate to tick it off my bird list. I was talking to someone the other day who has 800 on their bird list. I am at 200. I've got a long way to go. But going back to the hovering, it's not true hovering. It's not like the hummingbird. It's pretty unique. And yes, so it's not the same as the way a hummingbird would hover. That's completely different. The kingfisher cannot do that. It sort of hovers in its own way. And we would sort of call this aerial perching rather than hovering. Gerald, you're asking about other kingfisher species that we get here. We get a lot, believe it or not. Now, of course, in summer, we get the woodlands kingfisher. And by the end of summer, they're still here, but they will leave. They will completely abandon us. We get the malachite. I've seen a grey-headed kingfisher here in Djuma, but it's not so common. We get the pygmy. Again, stunning, but not so common. We get the brown-hooded, which is a year-round resident. We also get the striped, the giant, and of course, the pied. That's the kingfisher species that you will see here. Ah, there we go, I've got him. I don't actually know if it's a male or female, but you can tell the difference if we get a good look. He's gonna catch a fish at some point. Oh. Amazing work, Morgan. He's now perched. That's going to make it a little bit easier for you. Is it a he or a she? It's very difficult to tell from here. It's definitely a she. Yeah, it's definitely a she. This is a little female here. Chad, most likely an aerial predator. They're quite flighty birds. They're not going to be so easy for a terrestrial predator to find. So I would mostly guess that it would be sort of an aerial predator, be it a raptor or a much larger bird that would go after the kingfishers. But of course, I mean, if they were on the ground, snakes, absolutely, and terrestrial predators will always be opportunistic. If they can come across a bird, they absolutely will. But normally the pied kingfishers are always around water bodies, and they do keep themselves protected by sort of staying up the trees. Oh, this is so peaceful at Buffelshoek Dam. You can see the reflection. Look at that. I do want to try my very best to sit and find this malachite. It's probably going to take a bit of time, but it's always around Buffelshoek Dam. You've just got to be lucky enough to see it. And this dam is still incredibly full. Okay, your most famous hoverers are the hummingbirds, as I mentioned. It's mostly the hummingbirds that are known for true hovering. They're very specialized at that. Whereas that pied kingfisher, as I mentioned, was mainly just sort of aerial perching. It looks like hovering, but they are using a completely different technique to the hummingbirds. The pied is really the only kingfisher you'll find doing that. You see him, Morgan. Or her, sorry, her. You see her. It is just so remarkable how they do this, really. They just rest and get up, hover, fly over the water, look for fish, and attempt to hunt one. The weavers have all disappeared from Buffelshoek Dam as well, which is rather sad. The weavers are well and truly gone. Okay, I'm going to sit tight here and really try to find this malachite. But for now, we're going to send you across to Phinda.
Welcome back to Phinda. And we were very lucky this morning to find these lions still on the move. And it's quite late in the morning. You can see it, the light is quite bright and it's quite hot already. So it's not very common to find lions on the move like this at this time of day. But you can see these two youngsters in front of us, the closest two in screen, are still very, very active. They've been playing around, chasing each other quite a lot. And they're also interested in every little thing that's moving around. You can see there was a little splash in the water and that one's just jumped in to try and get something. And it's at this age that lions will become very inquisitive and they'll try and pick up on as many skills as possible while they are still moving around with their mothers. These little youngsters are all females, which means they'll probably stay within their pride their whole lives. So they won't necessarily have to move away from their mother, which is different for males. When they get to about 2 years old, males will have to then leave the pride and become nomadic.
You can see how inquisitive they are. And their mothers have already kept moving, but these three are lagging behind a little bit. But I do think that they will probably keep moving some point soon. You can see how they lift up their ears and investigate every little sound around them. Let's see what this last one does now that its sisters are starting to move along down the road. Wow, wow, wow. Tommy, I don't know if lions would ever go for a swim. I've seen in places like the Okavango Delta where they'd have to, then maybe they would. No way. Look, you see that one lion cub had chased something in the water? Look in the water there. There's a vervet monkey swimming. So talking about lions swimming, remember that one jumped down the bank? It seemed like it flushed that vervet monkey into the dam. This is incredible. Oh, no wonder they were standing there so long. And I heard something splash, but we couldn't see what it was in the long grass. Now I just saw that thing swimming there. So, Tommy, looks like vervet monkeys do sometimes go for swims. This is incredible. I hope it gets to the bank. There are crocodiles in this dam. It is very close by now, though. Very, very close. I hope it makes it. This is incredible, incredible scenes here at Phinda. So it looks like that monkey was probably hiding. I saw one just run off ahead of the lions as they arrived, and there was some monkey alarm calls, so I presumed that most of the monkeys had been warned. But it really shows how incredible sense of smell lions have to be able to tell. Even at a year old, those cubs were able to tell that there was something in the grass. And it looks like, you see that monkey climb up into the tree? Wow. Lilu, I'm glad you crossed your fingers and it looks like it's made it. Let's keep going and stick with the lions. It looks like we won't get much of a view of those monkeys. Wow, that is so cool. I've never ever seen something like that. So I think the lions are just below us in that dip, and there is another road off to the right. Oh, there they are, going up that steep part of the hill just ahead of us. See how the two lionesses which are in front, they always lead the youngsters, which will just follow them wherever they go. Let's just stop here. See how interested they are in playing with each other and following up on every little sound. We're going to have to try and stay with them for a little bit longer. This is a very steep hill. Hold on, Odie. Look at the two youngsters then now investigating that little tree. can hear the monkey still making alarm calls off behind us. And it doesn't look like a wet monkey, so maybe it was just another member of the troop that I can see at the moment. But we are parked very precariously on a very steep hill, so I'm going to have to reposition us soon, because I think we're going to lose sight of them. Let's just try and loop around. Dale for Angus Dale. Dale for Angus Dale.
Go for Dale, you know.
Barry, Mountain Pride is mobile straight towards Izwe.
Okay, copy. Where about it now?
They near the diesel Bowser.
Okay, copy. I'll let you run out at fast.
Copy, thanks, Baz. Back to 1. Okay, so I think we're going to stick with these lines for now. And we'll send you off to Ngala so long.
Yeah, we just on this road where there's a leopard been seen, and we're just gonna try move into the area to see how good the viewing is, because it sounds like it's not a very good view of the leopard. It's somewhere in the bushes to our left here. I'm just gonna reverse to see if we can have a place to squeeze in the vehicle and then see if we can see the leopard that's been seen in this area. It sounded like the animal was on a baboon carcass, but I'm not sure how much space we're going to get, because there's already another vehicle in the area. And we're going to have to wait for them to move out. As soon as they've moved out, we'll take the space where that vehicle is, but we can't see the vehicle for now. And then let's just go slightly park on the shade and wait for the other vehicle that's in the area to move out for us, and then we can see if we can have a better view of the leopard that's busy having its breakfast. Yeah, we're just going to wait here for the other vehicle to move out, and then we can see if we can maneuver our vehicles to get to a better position. While we're doing that, we're going to go over to JP and see what JP's found for us.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Brylands. We're not going to say much because we're very, very close to elephant. We're currently sitting in a high position, so we've got safe ground. And we've also got approximately 20 buffalo that's approaching this waterhole. So just enjoy. We're going to still sit with this elephant for quite a while, and we're hoping that buffalo is going to come down. But in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Steve, that is just located on something.
Welcome to Simbambili, everybody, where we have got the Telemati Pride. Their track crossed over. Guys were following them this morning. But we were following up on our leopard tracks and alarm calls. And now we heard the Telematis had possibly crossed into Simbambili at One-Eyed Pan, of all places, the place we've been spending a fair amount of time. And so they are here just south of One-Eyed Pan, not by very far. We did a quick little scout of the water chickens at One-Eyed Pan, but we didn't see them. But we did a very quick cursory look. So we're not sure. I'm sure they're still there. I don't think lions would have tried to catch little water chickens. As we closed the show last night, we bumped into this Pride on quarantine. 9 Pride members and dark mane. So as far as I'm aware, according to the guys I've spoken to lately, this is the first time the Telematis have actually been found on Simbambili. So they've crossed a territorial boundary. And I am honestly certain that because this Pride has only got a few adults with it at the moment, it seems like a lot of the youngsters are with them. That's why they're avoiding the buffalo, because if the Pride was 14 strong with all their adult lionesses, I think they would be following and hunting the buffalo, but they are deliberately avoiding them. They seem to be avoiding them altogether. I mean, the other night we had the buffalo at Sydney's Dam, and we heard the lions were on the way there, and we thought, oh goodness, this is going to be fun. The lions went north and killed an impala in Hardecool. They actually went the opposite direction, and then 2 nights in a row the buffalo have been around and they've gone the opposite direction. So I suppose it's like the art of war. You know, you only attack what you know you have confidence in beating, or you retreat and go and tackle smaller prey. And although the young lionesses are definitely getting involved in the hunt, they probably don't have the necessary skill it takes to take down a buffalo. Samuel, what a pleasure. It is indeed a pleasure. We're enjoying a little bit of guarri shade. Spoke about it a few weeks ago, about the importance of these guarri trees, where they grow in the landscape and how they provide constant shade. What can you see there? I probably heard something. Or she's just going to move into more shade. There we go.
In preparation for our 14th birthday, we will be lighting up a fire and heading on a special journey down memory lane. Join Lauren and Steve on the 11th of April for a sentimental look through the archives.
The missing cubs have arrived!
Holy moly, everyone, this is incredible stuff.
Oh my goodness, everyone. Oh, there's 2.
Who better to have as special guests than the Wild Earth co-founders Emily and Graham Wallington? They'll be answering questions about Wild Earth's fascinating journey since its launch in 2007. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer and join us straight after the Sunset Drive on the 11th of April for what promises to be a remarkable evening.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the Live Safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Welcome back to Simbambili, where we've repositioned for some shade because it is getting very hot. We're taking advantage of a guarri bush as well. Seeing as they're on someone else's land, it's possible they might remain quite vigilant today. I wonder, Darby, I wonder if he got it. Oh, he's going to go behind the bush. Are we going to get him?
He turned around, did he?
Yeah. Oh. Lilac Resideraler doing his thing. Still being quite territorial this time of year. Lilipan, I'm not sure, but I believe that the Umkuhumas, Telematis, Torchwoods all come from a similar sort of origin. Goes back a few years, so I'm not sure exactly. I'm sure someone out there can remember the information. I think the Telematis and Umkuhumas were once a pride. They come out of the same area. But I forget. I apologize for that. Umkuhumas have just completely vanished from existence, it seems, although we did have them briefly the other day, I think. But that's what happens. It's natural sort of occurrence in lion prides. They get to a certain number and they break apart. Food resource becomes scarce. Lions can't sustain numbers greater than 15 to 20. And so once that happens, individuals will have to break apart, because if they're at that number and then they have another set of cubs, it just becomes unmanageable. The squabbling over the scraps at the dinner table become too much, and rifts in the family start to develop, and then females that were bonded before potentially will move apart, taking their cubs with them, starting a new pride altogether. Really not certain, Dave, but these animals can see pretty far. It all depends on their alertness, a few hundred meters. But their movement, detection of movement is very good. They don't necessarily have depth, but their visual of movement is very, very good. It's very hard for anybody to quantify exactly the distance. Cheetah are able to see very, very far in the daytime, but that's probably just to do with the fact that they're under so much pressure. Lions can probably see equivalently as far, but they don't respond as much to that sort of behavior or to any movement from a distance that doesn't really influence them in any way. And obviously, different environments provide different landscapes. The Mara, for example, is a much more open system. So here, although I think lions rely quite a lot on eyesight, I think their sense of smell and hearing is paramount for detecting animals in the bushes. Sure, as lions become sub-adults for about a year or so, the youngsters will start getting involved. And after 16 months, we could essentially say that they could become independent and hunt on their own. But they're still learning a lot of the tricks of the trade. So from 2 up to 3 is when the lionesses are really, or young lions really start to come into their own hunting ability. And then from that sort of age, they're fully fledged members of the pride. But from anywhere between cubs and a year and a half, they do get involved, but I wouldn't really say that their skills are there. They look like lions, so they are able to chase and to scare the life out of animals, which is sometimes beneficial to the adults. But they don't have the necessary skills, patience, technique, communication, and all that the other adults seem to have very well oiled. But they definitely will participate from a year. Anywhere before that, they just mess up a lot of the hunts, and eventually you'll notice the youngsters just following the pride from a distance, watching, and as soon as the kill happens, run in there to get their share, because of course it's very important that they get as much as they possibly can. That's what feeds them and makes them stronger. But right now, there's none of that. Right now is time for sleeping. Okay, well, we're going to see what these lions do. You might even move off shortly, but let's send you over to JP, who's still with his elephant.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're still watching our elephant who's just finished drinking. I find it particularly fascinating that they can drink between 7 and 12 litres of water that they can put in their trunk at a time. But at one point, the wind started swirling and he became aware of us for a brief moment. Although we were incredibly quiet, he most likely didn't hear us. But one of the behaviours that we noticed is that he pretended to be drinking and pretended to eating while he was actually trying to figure out what was going on around him. So we're going to leave him from here and see where he's going off to. I'm just going to put the camera on him as he's moving away from us. There's a number of statistics that claim how many litres of water an elephant can drink in a day, but obviously it also depends on the size of the animal. Some books claim approximately 120 litres that they will consume. However, others will state more. But what I do find quite fascinating is that when we do have African elephant bulls that are in full must, they are claimed to be able to lose 400 litres of urine in a day by dribbling the urine onto the ground as they're moving around. And definitely they have to compensate for that. So I would really like to know how many litres of water a full-grown elephant bull in must can really need to remain hydrated in situations like that. Good morning, Oliver, and welcome to the show. Yes, they are. They can also develop a disease where that leads to the malfunction of a trunk. What I also find quite fascinating is that in the first few months of their life, the trunk as a muscle needs to be learned how to be able to be used, and then after that, they will start being able to use it. So it's quite often prominent in older elephants when we see that a specific disease will kick in and lead to the immobility of the use of a trunk. So from here we're going to move on and see what else we can go and find. Good morning, Kelly. To answer your question, that was probably in Botswana, and it was a herd that was over 200 elephants, which was really impressive. And then also on the Nwanetsi concession within Kruger National Park, I've seen a number of herds that are close to 200 in size. And one of my favorite sightings was actually with that specific herd that morning, where they actually detected lion, and it was the calves that started throwing a little tantrum about the lion that was close by. And the next moment, this herd was running after these lions at approximately 45 to 50 kilometers an hour, which was equally impressive to see almost 200 elephants moving at that speed, with the lions disappearing very rapidly. They also have the ability to form much larger herds, especially in East Africa and in other areas. And quite often, there's a number of different herds that will amalgamate or form a group and then split off. Quite often, they tend to form the larger groups in the wet season and then split off during the dry seasons into smaller groups. Typically, these breeding herds are, as you're familiar with, are led by individual cows, which is known as a matriarch. And meanwhile, we're going to continue and leave you with some sleeping lions.
Very sleepy lions in the open. There's a few more of them at the back there, but they're all in the shade, all hiding from the baking hot sun. This is still going to be quite a warm day. Dominic, normally male lions reach maturity at about 4. So any time after that age, it's possible for them to become a pride male. But, it's unlikely for the most part. Depends on the coalition. There's no set number really. There could be a coalition of 6 boys who turn 3.5 and they could take over pride. 6 boys who turn 4, or one male on his own would have to be quite big and old. He could only be 7, 8. There's really no hard and fast rule behind the exact age. It's all about dominance and size and aggression and ability to take over, because taking over the pride isn't just something that is given to you. It is something that's earned, and you have to physically take it. The Avoca males, though, they seem to have moved into this area without any competition, so sometimes lions can pick up on a territory like that, but generally they have to earn it. And it doesn't come cheaply. So anywhere from the ages of 4.5, 5, you get males pretty much becoming dominant. But as I said before, there's no real hard and fast rule there. Some males might be in the same pride in different ages, and they move off as a coalition. You could have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3.5-year-old, and they could form a coalition. Some male lions hold prides longer than others. Some don't hold them very long at all. There's quite a few different variables. No, Alison, there's no... Hyena and lion are very different in many regards. There's no hierarchy in that regard. Male lions will move in and then they get kicked out, and that is the end of that line for them. Although they have spread their genes in the pride, their cubs will move off. There's no remaining in a pride. Males never stay in a pride. They generally move off. It is kind of the way it works, how the genetics moves. Hyenas have males migrating in. That's how they mix their genetics. Lions have their males migrating out. And obviously you will have females staying in the pride. It's maybe a bit of a lineage there, but that generally sort of just followed by the oldest, most experienced. They get extremely well bonded from a young age. Okay, well, we're probably going to move off from our lions, go and catch up on our little water chickens while we send you over to Lauren. He's got something for you.
Well, we have come across not one, actually, but so far I can see 2 giraffes. And it's actually wonderful to see giraffes again. It's been a while since I've had a giraffe sighting. There we go. And although we use fancy words, journey and tower, they are lovely words. Really, collectively, giraffes can just be termed a herd. It really is a herd of giraffes at the end of the day. But of course, as humans, we like to make it fancy and dancy, and we say journey and tower, which is lovely. But really, it is just a herd. And because they're so socially aloof, if you like, they're also aloof when it comes to territory. They're really quite passive, non-territorial, go with the flow, free spirits. That's what we'll say. But they do prefer to be in one another's company. They do like to be in sort of visual line or visual sight with other giraffes. And in the last 15 years, populations of giraffes have really declined by about 40%, which is almost half. Now, that's a lot. That's very, very worrying. They are listed as vulnerable, but it's slightly confusing because on the IUCN Red List, they're still listed as one species, just giraffe. But actually, they are now classified as 4 different species confirmed by DNA and genetics. The southern, the Maasai, the reticulated, and the northern. And you can actually visually tell them all apart. They have different patterns in their patches. And the latest study basically shows that through DNA testing, the 4 species of giraffe have not crossbred. Oops. That radio's been quiet for long enough. The 4 species have not crossbred or exchanged any genetic material whatsoever for millions of years. So the main question was, what kept these species so far apart that they eventually evolved, not even into subspecies, but 4 separate species? And the sort of main theory is physical barriers. So things like rivers and mountain ranges possibly kept the population separated enough for the new species to then arise. Subspecies are just the same. You get 9 different subspecies of leopards, for example. They're all leopards, they're all Panthera pardus, but they're just located in different geographical locations around the world, which means that they've adapted unique specializations to survive and thrive in that environment. And that's when they become a subspecies. But for giraffes, the 4 are completely classified as different species now, and they have different Latin names. Okay, we're going to just bumble a little bit around quarantine to see if we can find some other animals for you. And for now, we're going to send you across to another location.
Wow. Finally got to see that leopard we were looking forward to see. As I said earlier, we're going to move and park onto the shade and wait because it was only a space for one vehicle. This leopard was not found by us. It was found by another vehicle, so we had to wait for them to leave. And I'd like to apologize to our viewers at home because it took so long to get here. But again, thank you for being patient with us. And we finally got to see the leopard that we were looking forward to see. This is a young male leopard. I'm not sure if you can see, he's just busy feeding on something there. The guys that found the leopard, they got here while there was still a little bit of meat left. It looks like the leg that is finishing up there, but they said it was a baboon, or it's still a baboon. That's he's finishing up. And then I think he caught this baboon during the night. And I would say I admire this leopard because he's still a young male, maybe 3.5 towards 4 years. He's taking it away from us now, unfortunately. Yeah, so baboons are favorite food for these animals, but they're not easy prey. We'll try go for them at night when they're roosting up trees because they can't see exactly what's happening otherwise. I've seen a fully grown male baboon chasing the leopard away. And then this is a very good area where baboon can roost. If you look around us here, to our left above the leopard, there's a beautiful tree that the leopard can easily take the carcass onto, because leopards will take the prey in trees for the safety reason, because they're single animals. Once they feed on the ground, if there are hyenas on the ground, the chances are they'll lose the kill onto hyenas, because they'll try not to fight with other predators. Being elusive, what I'm gonna do, I'll try and move a little bit back or reverse back, see if we can have another better view, because he all of a sudden turned and face away from us. So let's do it. Just be with me 1 second. I'm not going to take long. I'm just moving slightly backwards so we can try see if we can have a little bit better view of this leopard here. While he's busy finishing up the rest of the baboon. Here we go. So this is one of two young males from the same mother with the other brother we haven't seen since last year. And this is one of the two that we happen to see around here when we happen to see one of the two. And they lost the mother quite young, if I can remember exactly, between 13 and 15 months old. There were like 3 months to go, because these animals will spend the time until 18 months with the mother, and then that's when they go off on their own. As you can see, if you look at the body, you can see the spots doesn't close. They're like rosettes in comparison to the spots of the cheetah, of which cheetah will have solid spots all the body. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of a grass in front of him, so we can't talk about his face. But I'm so happy we finally got to see this leopard. Some of you may have this is a very good question. Like I said earlier, baboons are favorite food for leopards. A leopard will hardly leave anything behind if they catch a baboon, but with other species like impalas, they'll leave the head, the legs, and the skin, but with the baboons, they eat until the last piece. That shows how much they love baboons. Some of you guys who are watching us almost every day, if you may have happened to see this leopard before, this is the one leopard that's called Makoti male. Yeah, like we don't name these animals individually like human beings. We just name them according to their habit, what they do or their behavior, where they were born and grew up. Makoti in Shangaan, of which Shangaan is the tribe where me, Daikoza, come from. Makoti is a plural for vultures. And then when they lost the mother, he survived by going up trees and get chicks from vultures' nests. So That's where he ended up with the name Makoti, of which he used to hunt chicks from the vulture's nest until this age, of which that was very well done for the young leopard to do that, to survive. Unfortunately, unlucky for the vultures, because these are one of the endangered species that's becoming endangered in Africa. But anyway, he was not killing for fun, he was killing to eat. So here he is today. We're all watching him. Yeah, these animals will take something like 1.5 twice their body weight up a tree if they have to. If there's hyenas in the area, because they third of food chain, on top will be the lion, and I don't think leopard will be the second, but not. Hyena is the second, and then leopard is third, wild dog fourth, 1-on-1, and then cheetah will be the last. So these animals are third. Yeah, we're gonna sit here another few more minutes and watch if this leopard move into a better space where we can view him nicely. Otherwise, we're gonna have to go over to Carl and see what Carl has found for us.
We're just ambling along. BK just shut. Stop. Big lizard. And a fairly large lizard. It's the second largest in South Africa. This is a rock monitor lizard. The largest species of lizard we would find in South Africa is the water monitor. They look very similar in appearance, but geographical range is, we are out of the range of water. So if you take a look where BK is showing you is that snout, the front end is here to the right hand side of the screen. It's got a very blunt snout. That's a clear indication that this is a rock monitor lizard. A water monitor lizard will have a pointier, almost snake-like muzzle or snout. It's quite a large individual, and what it's doing now is just basking in the sun, allowing those scales and the length of the body just to absorb as much solar radiation as possible, because it is very chilly. So if I had to get out and move closer to it, you'd see that its movements would be very slow and sluggish. Unlike when it is very warm, this animal can move quite quick. So you can see the length of the body basically orientated towards the sun. And this is where this reptile now is just warming up. It's almost like in the same aspect of having a morning coffee. And before coffee, you're kind of sluggish and sleepy, but once that caffeine really kicks in, you kind of feel a bit more wakker, a little more awake, so to say. And so remaining inactive and still is a way in which it just blends into the environment as well, because now it is exposed and it is at great risk. Not that anything out here would actually chomp on an animal this big. It's a very large individual. But really remarkable to see it just laying absolutely dead still. You can see the nice round eyes. So it's also a way in which you can ID this, because it's got round pupils. Look at that. Pat, in the summer period, if we're out and about, especially on a bushwalk, Pat, we can come across their tracks quite a lot, and tracking down the animals not a very difficult task. So in the summer periods, they are very, very active. Now coming into winter, these animals reside in underground burrow systems, such as an old warthog burrow system or the meerkat burrow systems, where they would seek refuge through the cooler parts now of the year. So summer, we can find them fairly active, especially in the early part of summer when they are mating. So once they've mated, the female will excavate her own burrow system and deposit about 40 eggs. And then it takes about 10 months for the incubation to be complete, where then you'll have miniature versions emerging from this underground nest. You can take a look on the left-hand side there. Look how thick that tail is. So they do have very sharp, long, recurved claws, but that tail, look how muscular and how thick it is. That tail is actually used as a weapon as well. So if the animal comes into contact with a possible threat, it has got very sharp teeth, and over the years we've understood that this animal actually does have saliva that can be fairly toxic. They have a gland that produces a poison. So they're part of what they refer to as the venom clade. And then this animal also has another form of defense, which is those very, very large recurved claws. So we cannot see right now. But then that muscular tail can be wiped left and right and can create a little bit of damage, but then also creates this hissing noise to deter a potential threat.
Nestled on the banks of one of the largest lakes in the Sabi Sands lies an award-winning game lodge called Chitwa Chitwa. Many of you will have been on safari here virtually with Wild Earth, but now we are offering you the chance to see it for yourself in person. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer before the end of April, and you and a friend could win 3 nights to this luxury lodge. In addition to the unforgettable safaris, you can unwind on the deck, relax in the pool, and even savor the various bush dining experiences. Chitwa's holistic approach to hospitality, with specific emphasis on conservation, will leave you with the very best memories of the African wild. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature. Staying one step ahead is the key to survival out in the African wild. And now you can stay in front of the pack with a Wild Earth weekly newsletter. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and you will get exclusive behind-the-scenes stories about your favorite guides and camera operators. Information about our upcoming plans and projects will be delivered to your inbox every week before anyone else. And you can hone your guiding skills by taking part in our Identify Me nature quizzes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
What are you looking at, man? That's its gangster face. It has the manners of a common variety vagabond. Look at it, chewing with its mouth open like that.
Wow, how incredible was that? Earlier on we couldn't see that leopard better than we are now. That shows that he's looking more or less to all the small pieces that's in the area so that he can finish up on those. As you can see, he turned away with one piece and then he's just finished the one piece that he's got up with and lay down and face away from us, and then he's just finished that piece now. So he just came back to where he was earlier on to check around, see if he can get more pieces that's left in the area. As I mentioned earlier on, how much these animals love the baboon. It's also very exciting for me because this young male leopard has grown up now. He's going to have to go somewhere else and start establishing his territory. Haven't seen him, if I count, this is the 3rd month now. I'm seeing him for the first time myself for the first time in 3 months, of which is really incredible. You'll think this is exciting for you, our viewers at home, but for us it's even more exciting because we watch these animals being born and grow up, and all of a sudden the animal will disappear. And then here he is. He showed up again after quite some time. For me, it's wow, he's still alive. It's like having a pet at home, and then you wake up in the morning, your pet has disappeared, and you wonder whether he's still alive or been killed, and all of a sudden showed up. Isn't that cool that animals can disappear and then always all of a sudden show up again? So this is what happened with this animal. He had disappeared for quite some time, and some of us were even thought he's crossed into our neighborhood of Ngala Reserve, and then all of a sudden today here he is. It's a beautiful male. See, he's looking up in a tree, which sometimes when you see them doing that, there are chances that you might go up a tree. And then yeah, so this afternoon we'll come back to this area and have a look around, see if this animal is still around here. So thank you to all our viewers for being, he's just gone up a tree. Thank you to all our viewers for staying with us, and then stay tuned, and then we'll see you this afternoon.